Hi everybody, wish you all be happy and safe. Today we are going to study the human respiratory system or gas exchange in humans. As you know, all life processes like movement, reproduction, growth, cell divisions, all of them requires energy, and this energy is only obtained by the food we get and must be released from the chemicals we eat. And this process, which releases the energy from the chemicals inside our body, is called respiration. Respiration needs oxygen to be happened, and this process produces a waste product which is named carbon dioxide and should be gotten out of our body. In humans, oxygen is dissolved in the blood and carried to every single cell and every single tissue of our body. Nose is the very first step in respiratory system, so we can get air with the help of our nose inside our body. Then the epiglottis is the separator of air path from the food. And lung structure, as you know, the lungs are enclosed in the thorax or our chest region, and it has a spongy texture which is both expandable and also compressible. This expands and this compresses are happening when our thorax and ribs are moving in order to suck and blow the air out. And the diaphragm is the membrane which separates the abdomen from the chest region, and ribs are protecting our lungs. Windpipe or trachea is the joiner of our lungs with our mouth, and then it is divided into two smaller parts which are called bronchi, and after that bronchs are going inside our lungs and then divided into smaller parts which are called bronchioles. These bronchioles are ended in a very little and thin-walled and also small air sacs which are called alveoli, and the alveoli have thin elastic walls and formed from a single cell layer or epithelium. In human beings there are 350 million alveoli present. As you can see in this diagrams, this is the trachea, this is the two branches, then it is divided into smaller parts which are called bronchioles, as you can see, and they ends into a very small air sac which is called alveoli. Outside of the lungs and the inside of thorax is lined with a smooth membrane which is called pleural membrane, and this membrane is secreting a kind of fluid which is called pleural fluid, and this is because of reducing the friction between the lungs and the thorax. Epiglottis, as I have told you, is the separator of the foodway from the airway, and that's all about the epiglottis. The protection of this system has got two strategies. The first one is called goblet cells, then the other one is ciliated cell. Goblet cells are present in all epithelial lining of trachea, bronchi and some bronchioles, and they are secreting mucus so that small particles and pathogens stuck in this mucus and cannot enter into our alveoli. The other one or the other strategy which we have in our respiratory system is ciliated cells. They are present inside our respiratory tract, and they are working together with the mucus and preventing the bacteria from going inside our lungs. Characteristics of respiratory surfaces. It depends on the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and it can be occurred more rapidly if these three conditions are present. First of all, large surface area. I have told you that alveoli are present to increase the surface, and we have got enough alveoli. 350 millions of alveoli are present inside our lungs, and they make a very large surface area. 10 epithelium. Keep in mind that there is only a single cell membrane distance between the alveoli and capillaries, so the diffusion will happen so rapidly and easily. Good blood supply. The more blood we have in contact with our alveoli, the faster the diffusion happens. Then we have got all these three characteristics in our respiratory system, so we can respirate and change the gases better. Ventilation is the other part which we are going to talk about. The movement of air into and out of the lung is called ventilation. Ventilation of lung helps to maintain a step diffusion gradient between the air of the alveolar and the air of the blood. Ventilation involves two actions. Inhaling is the action of getting air into our lungs, and the process is like this: the diaphragm muscles contract and pull it down, then the intercostal muscles relax while the external intercostal muscles are contracting and pulling the ribcage upward and outward, so that our lungs can suck air inside. Then exhaling is the process of getting the airs out of our body, and this is happening like this: diaphragm muscles relax and allows the diaphragm to return its shape again. Then the external intercostal muscles relax while the internal intercostal muscles are contracting and pulling the ribs downward, and brings a forced expiration. These two is the diagrams of inhaling and exhaling. As you can see, we have got air inside our body, and in exhaling we get the air out of our lungs. Gaseous exchange. It should be in your mind, and do not confuse that ventilation is getting air inside our body and getting out of our lungs or our body. Then the gaseous exchange is the process of changing the oxygen and carbon dioxide between alveoli and capillaries inside our lungs. Then oxygens are combined with the hemoglobin of our blood and forms oxyhemoglobin. Then it goes to the alveoli, from alveoli to pulmonary vein, then the left atrium and left ventricle, and then it will be pumped all over our body. Lung capacity and breathing rate. The total volume of lungs when it's fully inflated is about 5 liters, but in sleep and in rest we normally exchange about 500 centimeters cubed. Then during the exercise we expel and inhale 3 liters of the air, and at rest we breathe 12 breaths per minute, but during the exercise we breathe up to 30 and more than 30 breaths per minute. So the depth of this inhaling and this exchanging is also increased when we are exercising, and there is always 1.5 liters are present inside our lungs. No matter how much hard you breathe out, there will be always 1.5 liters of gases inside our lungs. Respiration. Most of the process is taking place in cells need energy, as I have told you, and this energy comes from the food, and this process is happening inside the cell, every single cell. and they are mainly using the glucose, which is also gotten out of the food. And respiration is a chemical process that takes place in cells and involves the action of enzymes. We have got two kind of respirations. First one is aerobic and the second one is anaerobic. In aerobic respiration, we need oxygen. If there is no oxygen, there will be no aerobic respiration as well. For example, cellular respiration, which glucose and oxygen combines together and makes water, energy and carbon dioxide as a waste. Then in anaerobic, there is no need for oxygen. This respiration happens when there is no oxygen, like glycolysis and fermentation. And in anaerobic respiration, the enzymes are very necessary. So if we don't have enzyme, then this process will not happen. Common respiratory tract disease. We have got three common respiratory tract disease: common cold, influenza and tuberculosis. In common cold, it is an upper respiratory tract infection which is caused by many viruses, and there are some symptoms like cough, sore throat, headache and sneezing, and a runny nose. But influenza is a viral infection that attacks our respiratory system, our nose, our throat and our lungs, and this is commonly called flu. For most people, influenza resolves or they survive influenza very soon and it gets better its own. But sometimes influenza and its complications can be deadly, as National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases say that annually more than 56,000 people die due to flu and flu-like disease. Symptoms of flu: fever over 38 degrees of centigrade, itching muscles, chills and sweats, headache, dry, persistent cough, fatigue and weakness, nasal congestion and sore throat are the symptoms of flu. Then the tuberculosis, which is a bacterial infection and spreads through inhaling tiny drops, and is mainly affects the lungs, but it can also affect on abdomen, glands, bones and also our nervous system. This is very serious condition, but it will be cured if it's treated with the right antibiotics. Doctors are very important in this part. And the symptoms of tuberculosis: a persistent cough that lasts more than 3 weeks, then weight loss, night sweats, high temperature, tiredness and fatigue, loss of appetite, and swellings or the swellings in the neck or the symptoms of our tuberculosis. Center for Disease Control and Prevention published in 2019 that 1.6 million people are dead every year because of tuberculosis. This was all about our respiratory system. Wish you have good days and nights, and if you have got any question you can comment below. Thank you.